Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and today you might have seen that there was an interesting thing that happened on that little network that we don't like to talk about much called BET. In case you don't know, that's a network owned by white people that black people tend to watch. I'm not joking. I mean, they're owned by Viacom or something. So anyway, even though I don't talk much about what happens on BET, there was an incident that really got the attention of a lot of people where the host, I want to say her name was Keisha Shante, was disrespected by a singer who came on the show. His name was August Alsina. And he pretty much cussed at her and shut her down and humiliated her. And I felt that there was more to talk about there because I felt what I really saw going on was a dynamic that made me very uncomfortable, that was really reflective of a broader trend in the community. So to talk about this, I wanted to bring in Maria Lloyd. Maria Lloyd she is a contributor to idatedaily.com, which talks a lot about male-female relationships. She also joins us a lot on the Your Black World team. And first I want to start off by asking Maria, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Did you see what happened with this singer? And I didn't even know. I didn't even know who this guy was. I mean, I think the guy, he's like a 2-hit wonder or something like that. But he's got a great voice, and apparently the ladies love him. And did you see what went down between those two?
I did. I watched the video on YouTube.
What did you think?
I thought a few things. The first thing I thought was, okay, this is like a young, kind of ignorant artist who's, egotistical. He is full of himself. He's feeling himself. He's riding this wave and he's just kind of feeling himself too much. Another thing I thought was, this is also an artist who's probably frustrated. The label is, raping him financially. The media is trying to provoke this beef between he and Trey Songz while he's, in lieu of him promoting his album. So I also saw an artist who's frustrated because he's trying to take himself to that next level, but his brand keeps being deduced to this beef between he and Trey Songz. Lastly, what I saw was, just typical disrespect of women in that industry. I mean, in the entertainment industry, we would be foolish to, not admit that women are treated far more less than men in that industry.
Okay, so what you're saying is that that you feel that in the industry, and you've been in the music industry before, so you're saying that in the industry there is kind of just sort of a standard kind of disrespect that occurs. And as a person who has seen this disrespect up close, I mean, we talked off camera, and you mentioned that it was really frustrating to be a woman in the industry who wasn't trying to sleep her way to the top. Did you really see this sort of just being typical, that this is something that just happens all the time?
Yeah, unfortunately, man, I haven't been actively involved in the music industry for a little over 5 years now. So it's kind of disheartening to see that things haven't really changed that much. But just to give you an example, I mean, when I would be in the studio with artists or producers and, their staff, if a male walked into the studio, he would literally shake hands with every single person in the studio except me. If I were the only female, he would literally reach over me to shake another guy's hand. Or if there was another woman in the studio, if there were two of us, he would literally shake every single man's hand except, and exclude us from that. So, I've seen it all. I mean, it's very unfortunate. I'm sad that it's still happening that way, but I'm not surprised.
Well, I think it's something to talk about. I mean, if you really look here and you look at this dynamic that's kind of occurred with commercialized hip hop culture, and I think it's important to make that distinction, right? Because what we hear on the radio, that's not always real hip hop. Most of the time, it's not. It's this bastardization that has been built by corporations run by white people who want to take the very worst of black culture and elevate it to the very top. And if you look at this culture, you see that the disrespect of women, black women especially, is pretty much at an all-time high. And what's really unfortunate, too, is that there are many women who continue to contribute to that. The same way you have some black people who might contribute to our own oppression because we're so accustomed to being oppressed. You have some women who contribute to their own disrespect because what I saw when I watched this video was I saw a couple things happen. First of all, I saw a guy who obviously was frustrated. Yeah, absolutely. He wasn't media trained. He felt like he could just dominate this woman. And the way he talked about her, or the way he went at her, he wouldn't have done that. Somebody made that point on my Facebook page. They said he wouldn't have done that if he were talking to Charlamagne the Guy on the Breakfast Club. If he were talking to Charlamagne, he wouldn't have shut Charlamagne down like that. So clearly he did this because she was a woman and she was petite.
Absolutely.
And then what was interesting too is I saw the second dynamic, which was, I saw Bow Wow, and I'm looking at Bow Wow like, how are you going to handle this? I know you got to move. He did a good job in terms of moving the show forward. He had to be professional and keep things upbeat. Okay, but I think he could, again, hindsight's 20/20, but I believe he could have said something like, hey, no cussing on the show, man. We keep everything positive. We got to respect the ladies, but we respect you too, and we're not even going to bring up the beef anymore. But what we're going to talk about is your new album. It's coming out in stores on Friday. You know what I mean? Like he could have, I believe, squashed it and protected her on some level without pretending like that this guy didn't just urinate all over his co-host. I mean, I hate saying it like that, but I mean, that's kind of what it was like. Whoa, this poor girl has just been humiliated. And then the other thing I noticed was I saw that he starts talking about his album and he talked over the girl and he starts singing and all the women are like, screaming, right? And that's what young girls do when they hear a guy sing. And what that's doing is it's saying to me, you're sending the message that you're approving of this person, that he is your hero, despite the fact that he just disrespected the living hell out of this poor woman sitting next to him. And then I saw her dejection where she was barely holding it in. And you saw that when he announced his video, she just walked off the stage before she was supposed to be off the stage. So you could tell her feelings were hurt. I think she felt very embarrassed and just angry. And I think that what this really says about our community too, because I think this is what was not in a vacuum. I mean, this is a reflection of a culture that's kind of being built and bred. I think that what it also says, unfortunately, to so many young black women is that, look, if a man disrespects you, black men really aren't going to step up and protect you. And that really leads to a whole set of other issues that we have in the community in terms of how black women have had to learn to respond to that, which makes it difficult for them to sort of fit into relationships because they're used to having to be their own protector, against abusive men. With that said, I mean, am I making too much of this? I mean, what do you think in terms of what this says about society, about our culture? And you're talking more obviously as a black woman. I really want to hear what you have to say on that.
Well, I think you make some valid points, like when you brought up Bow Wow's silence, how he didn't really come to her defense. He just kind of kept the show moving. I'm a little on the fence about that because on one hand, I think Bow Wow did the right thing. I mean, he remained he kept his composure. He is a professional. So his job as the host of 106 in Park is not to provoke confrontation. I mean, it was obvious that this guy was attitudinal. He was upset. So I think if Bow Wow would have tried to come in and interject, that probably would have just added more fuel to the flame. But to your point, I do think if, he could have done it in a more smooth way, like how you had said, just kind of say, okay, man, yeah, sorry about that. All right, now, y'all make sure y'all go cop the album or whatever. So I'm on the fence about that. But just from a societal standpoint in the music industry, you're dealing with a lot of people who come from, underserved communities. I mean, these are people who are mentally damaged. So, August Alsina, in my opinion, is a product of his environment, but that doesn't excuse him. He has a platform now. He has a responsibility to do better. So I actually blame, I'm actually looking at his team. Who's your PR person? Who's your manager? Why didn't they, kind of coach you on how to deal with the media when they are trying to provoke beef as opposed to promoting your album? So I think that what we saw was just a very immature guy. Again, I think he's feeling himself, he's at the top. He's one of the top R&B artists out right now. But if he continues down this path, he will not last long. I mean, just look at Chris Brown. Chris Brown is far more talented than August Alsina, in my opinion. And he's on a downward spiral, and it's unfortunate, but if your ego is way up here, people are only going to deal with that to a certain degree. And in terms of the young ladies cheering in the background when August started singing on the show, honestly, I don't know too many people over the age of 15 who watch BET. So those young ladies were in high school and probably would have cheered him on if they had cursed them out. So I can't really, maybe their parents should talk to them about respect and all of that. But that's typical of a teenage girl who's in love with her favorite celebrity. So I don't really think too much about that.
Well, I agree with you, and you're right. I mean, those are teenage girls, but we can't pretend like this doesn't happen with grown-up adult women either. I always bring up examples of artists. I bring up Lil Wayne just because I guess when you're the biggest fish, people are going to talk about you. But I keep going back to that verse in We Be Steady Mobbing where he talks about, I'm going to steal your girl and make her nut for me, then slut for me, then steal for me, then kill for me, and of course it'll be your cash, and then I'll murder that bitch and send her body back to your ass. And what's interesting to me is that I believe that if a white mainstream artist said a line like that in a song, women's rights groups would their heads would explode. Absolutely. They would destroy him worse than the dog lovers and PETA destroyed Michael Vick. They would be up his ass so far that he thought that they grew there. I mean, it would be over. It would be a wrap. But here's what happens in the black community that's so fascinating to me in a sad way. We will act like that stuff never happened. You will have women that will admire a man like Lil Wayne that much more because he's rich and he's powerful. And so what I try to help people understand, especially young women, is I'm a father. I have daughters. I want them to respect themselves and to be respected. Mm-hmm. I tell them, look, understand, men are watching how you interact with that disrespect. Other men who are trying to get your attention, they're watching you when you go on the dance floor and you're dancing to a Lil Wayne song where he just talked about raping you and putting you in a body bag. They're watching you when you talk about how you're in love with that artist who just said all bitches ain't shit. Excuse my French, but guys say that stuff. And, I mean, when you exalt that and idolize that, you're sending a message to the boys sitting next to you that, look, respecting women is that's not cool. That makes you square. That's not what women want you to do. Women don't want to be respected. And I think that's just a misrepresentation because I believe that deep down they do. But you talk about the mental illness dimension. If you look at the bio of this brother, I looked up August Alsina. Let me tell you this. I think the mental illness in our community, unfortunately, is so deep. It's so painful. And I read his bio, and it reads tragically. I mean, he grew up in New Orleans, and he had a father and a stepfather, both addicted to crack cocaine. His father died when he was very young. He and his mother had to move from New Orleans to Houston right after Hurricane Katrina when he was about 13, 14 years old. And in fact, and then his brother got shot and killed, and that led him to dig deeper into his music. And all this happened before the age of 21. So he's been traumatized. He's probably got some undiagnosed mental illness. He's probably found some very unhealthy coping mechanisms for that. And I think that's what you really saw. I mean, if you look at what any abused animal, and that's what a human being is when you've gone through that much stuff, if you look at it the way an abused animal reacts when they've been tortured by their owner, what do? They bite your hand. You try to feed them, they're going to bite you. They're going to growl at you because that's how they survive. So with him, I'm hearing him growling. I'm hearing him biting the hand that feeds him. I'm hearing him engaging in a pattern of very self-destructive, incredibly arrogant defense mechanisms. And I think the arrogance really is a defense for the fact that he feels that in order to survive all of this, the chaos that exists in his world, he's got to be a quote unquote a real nigga, right? And in fact, let me find a quote. They asked him about his beef with Trey Songz, and that's what the sister Keisha brought up in the interview. And here's what he said. Now here's the thing: August actually brought up the beef himself into the media, so she didn't make this up. I mean, he had already been talking about it, so I think it was kind of awkward for him to sort of act like he didn't want to talk about it. But what he said in an interview, looks like this is on Hot New Hip Hop, but I guess he was on some show. But here's what he said about Trey Songz, and this kind of gives you an idea of his mindset, and that's why I want to read this. He says that basically he's saying Trey Songz is fake. Like I tell people all the time, show me that you're this person on day one. You should always be that person. We were supposed to have a show together, and it just went left because I can't deal with niggas' egos and attitudes because I'm a real nigga coming through and I'm rocking. Once niggas go to talk in a certain type of way, that shit ain't gonna fly with me. And that's all that was said. And I just had to not do the show because I can't stand on the side of a nigga if I really got something that I feel in my heart. It just ain't gonna work. So I had to dip and we didn't do it, but it is what it is. Okay. So you see a person that's just kind of like even when he's hurting, he puts on the real nigga persona, right? I mean, that's the best way to call it, like almost like an armor that people might put on, almost like the strong black woman kind of thing. Black men kind of have the real nigga persona, right? But really, at the same time, what I'm picking up on this from reading this is that that part of where he comes from does have kind of a code of authenticity. I think he does have certain principles. They might be street principles, but they're principles nonetheless. He probably feels a little hurt and violated by what happened with Trey Songz. Like, he disappointed him. He hurt my feelings. So he's not going to say that. He's going to say it is what it is, right? That the is what it is like a closure sentence for a black person that's hurting. Like you say, man, and then I died and then I lost my job and then, they come in here tripping. But it is what it is. That's me saying, like, I'm really down, but I'm gonna be all right. I'm gonna make it through, right? And so ultimately, I just see all that sort of happening with this young guy, and it's unfortunate because when you get that much money and that much power and you're surrounded by idiots who are managing your career, you're not going to get the help you need. You're not going to get the mentorship you need. You're not going to get the counseling you need. So all you're going to do at that point is do what Chris Brown is doing, which is self-destructing. And I just hope that doesn't happen to him, but that's really what I'm seeing here. Maria, please chime in.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The one part I do want to just kind of piggyback a little bit. You were saying that about the interview on 106 & Park. I do want to, make it clear. He did ask them not to discuss the beef between he and Trey Songz. And again, this does not excuse his unprofessional behavior, but he did ask them not to discuss that beef. So she should not have brought it up. She should have honored his request. But again, that goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, where the artists are being jerked every which way. They're being jerked by their label. They're being jerked by bad management sometimes. They're being jerked by bad accountants. They're being jerked by everybody, the media especially. So, it wasn't that long ago that we lost two legendary hip hop artists because of the media. The media was behind Tupac and Biggie's beef. So as a result of the media, kind of provoking this, ridiculous, territorial beef, we've lost two of the greatest hip hop artists to ever hit the scene, most people say. So anyway, I think that, this guy clearly is hurt. Like you said, that defense mechanism, I'm totally seeing that. He has this big, macho persona. And again, this is indicative of a lot of men in the entertainment industry. I mean, it's unfortunate. Most of them do derive from that hood culture. And this is why you see the music, R&B even. There was a time where R&B was respectable and, they talked about love and it wasn't all about just taking off your clothes and all of that. It was actually about getting to know women and courting women and stuff like that. And now it's like, no, I want to get you pregnant, and it's just so unfortunate because we have so many hurt people out here who are given these massive platforms and they're creating destructive messages and destructive behavior in Black America. So it's really unfortunate. And to your point about women kind of, not really, diffusing like this disrespect. I agree with you. I mean, I think if black women stood together and said, you know what, enough is enough. We're not going to dance to this music where you're calling us out of our name. We're not going to support artists like 2 Chainz, who, you know, just a few weeks ago actually had put this young lady on like a blog. And granted, you know, she was supposedly a groupie. So basically she was coming backstage to try to meet 2 Chainz and his posse and all of that. But the way that they mistreated her, calling her a thought, which is essentially, I think it means that hole out there or something like that. You know, it was so ridiculous. And it really frustrated me. And being that I was a professional woman in the industry, I was very careful not to defend her because I didn't like women like her. I did not like women like Melissa Ford and Corinne Steffens, aka Superhead. I could not stand them when I was working in the industry because I felt like they were the reason why men didn't respect professional women like myself. You know, when I came into a studio, I'll never forget, and I'm bringing this up only because I know he has changed now, but this is when T.I. was at his prime. I can remember like it was yesterday. I had walked into the studio and I was the only female in the studio. This was at a radio station in Atlanta. I used to work at a radio station in Atlanta. And I walked into the studio and his friends were talking. And so they stopped talking. When I walked into the studio, they all stopped talking. It was very quiet and they looked at me. Well, I'm from the South. So, you know, you speak to everybody. So they looked at me. I looked at them and I said, hey guys. And literally, you could have heard a pin drop. Nobody said a word. And I was flabbergasted. I could not believe it. I'm like, so why did you stop talking? Why did you even look at me? You know, it was just so strange. But again, this was the T.I. Before he lost his best friend, before he went to prison, before he became this, you know, father figure that he is today. I'm very happy that T.I. has changed. So this is the only reason why I'm bringing up this situation. So T.I. at one point in time was just like August Alsina. He was arrogant, definitely, you know, coming from that kind of hood culture, that macho man where, you know, oh, I'm hard and all the girls want me. And, you know, so anyway, he's changed now and I'm very happy for him. And like I said before, that's the only reason why I brought it up is because I know he's a changed man. He's a better person now. But I think that what needs to happen, and it needs to happen right now, is that black men and women need to come together and say enough is enough. This misogynistic culture that's being promoted and marketed in the hip hop and R&B space, it needs to come to an end. And we need to come together and say, look, this is it. And boycott artists like 2 Chainz, who, you know, just recently, about 3 weeks ago, I believe, recorded a young lady. Now, she was supposedly like a groupie, and she had come backstage to see him and his buddies, and he put her on blast, essentially, and he was calling her out of her name, calling her a thought, which stands for that hole out there or something like that. And so, you know, at that point, we should have said, you know what, this is it. No, we're not supporting 2 Chainz ever again. There should have been a mass outcry from Black America saying this behavior is ignorant and we need to stop it, especially coming from a man who's pretty much 40 years old. It needs to come to an end. It's really pathetic at this point. So I think that, you know, I used to be one of those persons who would say, when I hear the artists call women out of their names and talk about all of the nasty stuff women would do in the bedroom with them, I used to say, you know what, it's okay for me to listen to this because they're not talking about me. I'm not that woman. But, you know, as I've gotten older and I'm more mature now, I realize that, no, I'm still uncomfortable with that. Even though those messages are not, you know, about me, I'm not what they describe in those songs. I still am very uncomfortable with the fact that this music is being marketed and promoted to young women, children, and even adults, you know, across the nation, really across the world. I mean, how do people in Saudi Arabia look at black women? You know, we need to start thinking globally. These artists are not just constrained to the United States. This is a global matter. And if they're calling black women bees and hoes and all of this stuff, this is a big deal. And we need to stand together and boycott this misogynistic culture in hip hop and R&B. If we stand up and we say, this is it, they won't have a choice but to change the lyrics. I don't want to hear, oh, well, they're just rapping lyrics that people want to hear. No, that's not true. As we can see with the success of Pharrell's song Happy, which is a very wonderful song and has, you know, uplifted a lot of people's spirits. as we can see, good messages can travel just as far, if not further, than the ignorant stuff that we promote. So I think we need to change our tolerance of this stuff and say, this is it. This is it. And we can do it. We just need to do it. We really need to do that and take it seriously.
Well, in a way, it's, this, I never understood that logic of a woman hearing a man be blatantly disrespectful of women and somehow conclude, oh, he's not talking about me. I cannot imagine hearing a white person say, I'm going to get that nigger over there and string him up to a tree. And have him, and I couldn't imagine hearing that and thinking, oh, well, he's not talking about me, so it's okay if he strings that nigga up from a tree because he would never do that to me. No, he's going to do that to you too. After he finishes stringing that black man up, he's going to come and turn and look at your ass, and you're going to be the next person up on that tree. And that's what people have to understand. That's what women got to realize, in my opinion. Again, I'm not telling anybody what to think. I'm encouraging people to think for themselves, but understand that if a rapper brags about raping another woman, when he gets next to you, he's not going to love you and rape another woman. He's going to rape both of you. And I understand too that he's sharing a message. He's spreading a gospel that is sinking into the psyches and subconscious of all the men that you're going to interact with, and it's not a healthy thing. And you made a good point that was so interesting about R&B and how that's taken a turn for the worse. And I'll throw this out there, and then we can go ahead and shut it down. But I found some lyrics from a song that August Alsina did with Trinidad James, our favorite rapper. Trinidad James did all gold everything, which had a great beat, but it was probably the most ridiculously pathetic song I've ever heard in my life in terms of really encouraging stereotypes. And in fact, I remember when I was in New York, Trinidad James was in the studio the day before I got there, and I got really disgusted hearing people talk about the fact that he's actually far more educated and more intelligent than he appears in media. That is actually inexcusable, because if you're ignorant and you don't know you're ignorant, then I can't blame you for being ignorant. You're just being who you are. But if you're intelligent, you're pretending to be ignorant, and you're dumbing down the black community, a community that's already oppressed in every way imaginable, then I think that you are a plague to our people. You are somebody that needs to be eliminated, because black people are not going to advance by absorbing the messages that you're selling them. You're just as bad as somebody who's selling drugs to a group of people. When you sell anything that dopes people up mentally, physically, and spiritually, you are condemning those people to a perpetual lack of progress. As Minister Farrakhan said during our New Paradigm event, he said that there are so many black people in America who are spiritually dead, who are just dead. And if you're contributing to that death, if you're spiritually killing your people, then we need to kill your career, period. So let me read some lyrics here. You talk about how R&B has just changed so much. This is from August Alsina's, one of his two hits, the song's called I Love This Shit. Now, the verse is like this. I'm not going to try to sing it because I can't sing. It says, it's 2 o'clock and I'm faded. The Kush feeling amazing. Got a voicemail on my phone from a little breezy feeling X-rated. She told a nigga she hurting. I'm in the car and I'm swerving. I walked into her bedroom. I put it down, that's certain. Man, I stay on that Ciroc. Man, I stay taking shots. Man, your girl be on my job. Now, let's just really analyze. Let's do our little version of Rap Genius here, because it's all part of hip-hop culture. All right, 2 o'clock, I'm faded and the Kush feeling amazing. No, you're doing two things. You're promoting excessive use of drugs and alcohol. Anybody who's got those drunk-ass uncles in their family knows how much devastation alcoholism has caused the black community. Why in the hell are we celebrating this? Why are we promoting this? We know what drugs have done to our community. Why are we glorifying drug use? Why are we letting big white corporations convince us to mass market drug use, drug addiction? Keep going down the list. Got a voicemail on my phone from a little breezy feeling X-rated. So, again, it's okay. Men like sex. That's a given. Women like sex too. Maybe they're both feeling X-rated. There's no reason to judge a person's sexuality, but it is very interesting that hip hop culture has been bastardized by commercialized entities to make male-female interactions really condensed down to hypersexuality. When I look at you, I'm not thinking about how I can love you. I'm not thinking about how I can marry you. I'm not thinking about how I can be with you. I'm not thinking about how I can be accountable to you and have children with you and raise children with you. I'm thinking about how I can fuck you, period. That's it. So that I can get past you as soon as possible and move on to the next one. Okay, so let's keep going down. She told a nigga she hurting, I guess hurting like she's hurting for sex, or maybe she's hurting more. I don't know what that means exactly. I'm in the car and I'm swerving. So you are speaking to teenagers now, and you're making it cool to drink and drive. And we know, and anybody who's had a relative lost from drunk driving knows that that's not cool to promote drinking and driving.
Right.
So you keep going down the list. I put it down that's certain. So black men, again, being taught to define ourselves solely based on our sexuality, not based on our intellect, not based on our hard work, our principles, who we are as men. We're based on the size of our dick and how many women we've had sex with. That's it. And again, this is all coming from a corporation. This isn't coming from necessarily a person or an artist. The artist is merely a vessel through which the corporate message is being sprinkled onto black folks. They're not selling this shit to white people. They're selling it to us. We're emulating this culture. Keep going down. Man, I'll stay on that Ciroc. So again, I'm bragging about alcoholism. Man, I'm taking them shots. Man, your girl be on my jock. So that means basically I'm two things. I'm an alcoholic, and I am basically like the bucks on the plantation that are used to breed and have sex with women. That's it.
Right.
That's all I am as a man. Nothing else defines me except the fact that I drink a lot, I have a lot of women, and then maybe I tell you I have a lot of money, and that becomes my whole identity as a black man. And that is incredibly problematic, because what kind of men are going to be built when they're absorbing messages like that every single day incessantly from the time that they're infants? Do people understand what kind of psychological poison is being fed to our children with this shit? Excuse my French, I can't help it. It just makes me so mad. So I'm going to stop talking about it. When I just start thinking about it, my blood literally starts boiling, because I don't think people understand just how damaging this is. So, Maria, I'm going to let you get the last word in. Please, as a woman, tell me what you think about what I just read here.
Well, I can. And to kind of piggyback on when you were saying, you've never understood women who will say, women like me, what I used to think, which was, oh, those messages aren't about me, so it's okay for me to rap the lyrics because he's not talking about me. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's silly, right? And this is coming from a woman who worked in the industry. Yeah, they do look at all of us like that, because again, I was a professional woman. I did not sleep with anybody in the industry. I have made it a point to not make myself be a Melissa Ford or a Corinne Steffen. So, I mean, I worked very hard to try to make a name for myself without having to sleep with somebody. So, they absolutely treated me, or tried to sometimes treat me like I was a Melissa Ford, a video vixen, which essentially was a code name for an industry hoe, if we just want to be frank here. So, I think, again, just to go back to what I was saying earlier, we need to stand together as a community, black men and black women, and say, this is it. This misogynistic culture, the promotion of drug abuse, the promotion of all of this self-destructive behavior, I don't think it's a coincidence if we look at the numbers. I don't think it's a coincidence that out of wedlock childbirth has surged since the music in Black America has changed. I mean, really, think about it. If we go back to the 60s, 70s, even the 80s, and some of the 90s as well, the music was respectable. Men talked about getting to know women, courting women, loving them, and respecting them. But somewhere in the mid-90s on up to today, the music just went downhill in terms of the quality. And as a result of that, I strongly believe that that is what has attributed to the unbelievable percentage of out of wedlock childbirths that we've had. And one of the most ignorant things a person can say, and I'm sure somebody's going to comment and say this because it never fails, is, oh man, that music, that doesn't do anything to us. Please, people, use Google. It's a free university. You always say this, Boyce. It's a free school. Google lyrics or Google music and its effect on people. And you will clearly see there are tons and tons and tons of articles published by world-renowned scholars that tell us over and over again that music absolutely affects our behavior and our way of thinking. So please stop with the ignorant remarks that music does not affect us. Yes, it absolutely does. And this is why we need to stand together as a community, black men and women, and say enough is enough. Personally, I have not listened to hip hop music, really any of these current artists, in years. So I'm almost out of touch at this point because I'm so disgusted by what I hear. And I don't think that's necessarily me just getting old, quote unquote. I think that that's me maturing. My mind cannot digest this destructive behavior. I'm sick of it. I'm so above that. And I think it's disgusting when you have people in their, mid-20s and up who are still really riding with this stuff. I'm like, really? Are we still listening to this stuff? So anyway, in closing, I would like to say, black men, black women, let's stand together. Let's create a consistent message and say, look, or boycott really, and say, this is it. Any artists who disrespect women, who promote drugs, who promote unprotected sex, or you really just not safe sex in general because you're having so much of it with so many different people, is not safe, even if you're using condoms. Anybody who is promoting destructive behavior to us, we need to boycott them and let it be known we will not tolerate this. And we can do it. We've shut down Shawty Lowe's little ignorant show with his baby mamas. We've shut down quite a few things over the past couple of years. So we have the power to do it. We just need to make it happen. And I will stand so tall and be so excited to join a movement like that.
All right. Well, I love it. And, I think that we really, as a people, we're in a war. We're in a war for the futures of our children. We're in a war where ignorance is winning right now. And ignorance is being financed by entities that want to see the black community destroyed. It's no different from how the United States government will finance a rebel group in a small country so they can take over the government. So they'll give the rebel group a lot of money and resources so they'll have a lot of power. And when they get in power, they become their puppets. Well, the black community is like that country where, they basically go and they say, let's find the most ignorant people in that community and let's elevate them. Let's give them more money and more power than anybody else around them. We want 2 Chainz to have a bigger voice than any professor or doctor or lawyer in the black community. We want to elevate and get children to worship athletes and entertainers and ignorant people and Trinidad James and violence and all that. And in fact, we will screw with their heads so much that they will glorify and celebrate their own genocide. They will sing and dance to the beat of their own destruction. And that's exactly what's kind of happened here, and I think it's something we have to really keep talking about. So I want to say thank you so much, Ms. Lloyd. It is always a pleasure to get a chance to speak with you.
Likewise, and thank you for having this conversation. I think people need to know that, this needs to come to an end. It's just getting old. It's really kind of silly, and it's time to put this to an end. We're just way too far as a people. I mean, too many people have died for us to still kind of support this type of ignorance. It needs to come to an end.
Absolutely. And thank you all for checking us out at yourblackworld.net. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.